Hello everyone, I'm Ben Coleman, one of your hosts for Florida Aviation Network, and we're coming to you live in the clear from the Florida Air Museum here at the beautiful Sun and Fun Complex in Lakeland Linder Regional Airport, and right across the street from the Central Florida Aerospace Academy. And if you don't know anything about the CFAA, pick it up. I mean, we're streaming live to you on the internet, so if you're seeing this, you have the world in front of you. So there's no reason to not know everything about anything. So there you go, that's my challenge to you. We are here at the 44th Annual Sun and Fun International Convention and Fly-In. And it's just a great place to be. If you have ever been, I'm sure you want to come back. It always gets better, better, better. Each year they improve. And as well, the Florida Aviation Network, the official Sun and Fun television network. We improve, and with our set, with our volunteers, great folks. As a matter of fact, we have 3 students from the Central Florida Aerospace Academy on camera 1, 2, and 3 today. And they are here to learn how to put on productions. We are here to produce these shows and talk to our guests and our interviews and our performers to share their information, their experience with you. Today we're very honored to have somebody that's usually out burning kerosene and enjoying their vocation very well, but every now and then there's things that they don't enjoy, and we're going to develop that with Lieutenant Colonel
Scott Petz.
Scott Petz.
Cheetah.
Cheetah.
Yes, sir.
Cheetah, welcome.
Thanks, Mr. Coleman. It's good to be here at Sun and Fun.
And when you say that, I know you mean it well, because I think, tell us a little bit about your background, Cheetah. I think you have a little bit of jet time?
I have a little bit of jet time. I have over 2,100 hours in the F-16. I started enlisted with the Air National Guard and ended up getting selected for a pilot training spot. Flew the F-16 out of South Dakota Air National Guard. So pretty extensive background in aviation. My wife, she's also a pilot. She flew the C-17, C-21. So as far as women in aviation, it's a great chance to come out here and not just talk about my current job, which is working at NORAD, North American Air Defense, talking about TFRs and making general aviation aware of the different types of airspaces out there and what's going to keep you out of trouble. But that's where I'm at now in my career, but being at Sun and Fun is particularly interesting because the last time I was here, I was performing with the Air Force Thunderbirds. So I got a chance to do 2 years with the Air Force Thunderbirds. Prior to that, aggressor time as an aggressor pilot out at Nellis, and all those missions are absolutely amazing. The current job I'm in right now is absolutely amazing. So over 20 years in the military, Air National Guard, Air Force Reserve, it's been an inspiring and awesome time.
Cheetah, tell me, this is what you're currently doing, this is what you kind of ramped up for. What got you interested in aviation to begin with, and at what age? I'm curious.
At age 9, I saw the Thunderbirds at Ellsworth Air Force Base. So, you know, part of the Thunderbird mission, recruit, retain, and represent, and they did. They inspired at a young age, and they inspired me, got me interested in aviation, got me eventually turning wrenches, paid for my college. And so, yeah, that's how I got into the aviation industry, and it's been great.
You just struck a really, really deep spot in my heart, turning wrenches. I'm a mechanic by trade. I fly aircraft because it's easy and it's fun. But don't let that get, that's a secret, isn't it? We shouldn't say that. Yeah, it is fun. It can be extremely complex, but it is a lot of fun. But pulling a wrench, what was your wrench pulling experience?
It was great. I was 18 years old and I was working on $50 million aircraft.
Oh, I like it.
So, yeah. So, and by degree, you know, and that's one of the things. You know, we talk about recruiting. You don't have to be, in order to fly aircraft, you don't have to be. I'm not talking down to you, but you're probably not a nuclear scientist, right?
It's on my list of things to be. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, my degree wasn't in nuclear science or fission. It was in public relations, and I actually worked at a television station when I was in college. So all those roads led me to eventually sit here and do an interview and talk about not just the NORAD mission or TFR violations, but the opportunities the military gives.
And Cheetah, tell me, your call sign, there's usually a little backstory on you don't, when you're going through flight school, and they don't just say, okay, you're going to be Jackal, you're going to be Cheetah, you're going to be Foxman. Where does Cheetah come from?
Well, with every good call sign, there's probably a pretty in-depth story behind it. there's also probably a cover story behind it. So I will tell you that I ran track at Black Hills State University, and I was really fast. And I'll let you figure out if that was the cover story or the in-depth story.
Well, and I know that follows you through your aviation career, your military career, and once you get tagged with that moniker, that's it.
They can change. You can do combat renamings, but you'd have to do something pretty silly or stupid in order to get renamed.
Yeah,
so.
that's for security purposes.
Usually if a call out sign is skid plate, the guy probably landed gear up at one point. So.
Or as far as lights, have you met Lights Leanhouse?
I have not.
Okay, lights is short for lights out, okay?
Okay.
On pulling G's, I'll let you fill in the blanks on that.
Oh, G-lock.
Lights out.
All right. Where does Milk Jug come from?
Oh, Milk Jug, that was, I was ferrying an aircraft and over at high altitude, and you know, things happen. You have environmental, personal needs, and the only thing that was, there was a gallon of water in a water jug or a milk jug. And you empty the water, and now you have a retainer for things that might have to come out when you're at altitude and can't land, go to the bathroom. So
I got it.
So that's and about the time we were getting into some turbulence, or I was by myself, and taking care of the matter, hit some turbulence, and things started to change. And as things start to expand, certain rims around the jug are a little sharp.
Okay.
And so I'll let you fill in the rest there. But anyway, it stuck. It stuck, literally.
Literally, I got it. Yep.
Okay,
all right.
That might have been a little bit TMI.
That was your deep story. You need to have a better cover story.
That was TMI. But Cheetah, tell us about I know that with the presidential TFRs and West Palm Beach, they're not used to that type of thing. Have you had any experiences with NORAD and the TFRs around West Palm Beach?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why it was so important for us to come out here and make a presence at Sun and Fun. We were at Sebring, Florida a month and a half ago, and the interaction that we have with general aviation is really beneficial, especially during the presidential TFR being a hot item. And we carry these pamphlets, and we hand these out if you don't mind.
Sure.
This is all the information about a general TFR, and the presidential TFR is a general TFR. It'll be released via the FAA NOTAM system, 1-800 weather brief, and it encompasses basically a 10-mile restricted area over Mar-a-Lago with a 30-mile also TFR that adds into basically identifying individuals that are getting closer to that the 10-mile restricted area. And the reason it's important here is because these pop up and down on the presidential's travel plans, and those can change, right? So if you're flying with a EFB or ForeFlight or all the great electronics in the world, if they're not updated, you might not know that that TFR is active. I will tell you this, that recently, within the last 4 or 5 years, people have gotten a lot better. The amount of intercepts that we're doing are getting reduced, but they're never going to be reduced to the amount that we want. Every time we do an intercept, generally speaking, it's going to be $100,000 on the government's dime, plus a level of risk that comes with aircraft scrambling. I sat alert out at Virginia for over 2.5 years, and it is you never can get complacent by waking up at 3 in the morning and running to an F-16 and taking off and just going out to scramble on a aircraft that's not squawking or not talking. And going back to Palm Beach, there's a lot of great aviation down here in Florida because you have great weather. You got great airfields around here. And we're just asking people to know the TFRs, know what's going on, know when the president's in the local area, and making sure that you're talking to people.
Well, and we were just holding up for our radio listeners, because this is going out on the radio as well. We were holding up a pamphlet that NORAD is circulating, and this is all available at the norad.mil/general-aviation.
Yep.
And it's good. It's not only just good information to know, it's required reading and understanding if you're going to be operating in the national airspace.
Yeah, the
really
National Capital Region is a whole nother story. There's special education you have.
Yeah.
Frankly, that's just too busy of airspace for me to enjoy flying in, unless I'm doing military flights.
Sure.
But
and this is all goes with flight planning and flight. Just plan yourself away and around the DC area.
right.
Unless you have a need to be around there. And I remember days when you could fly directly over the Capitol. No more, not unless you're
How long
talking to
ago
a
was
monk.
that? Oh, are we
I'm
aging
going to say
ourselves?
40 years. Okay, so, but that was an interesting time. And I'm going to hold on. May I have this?
Yeah, absolutely. We have them at our booth, so if you get a chance to come by, we have unlimited amounts of those, because those will not only keep you from getting into trouble, but they also will explain what to do if you do get intercepted. If an F-16 comes on your up on your wing and rocks his wings, what to do. A lot of time it is just follow this guy, going in a different direction.
Talk to me about a headbutt. Tell me what
Yeah,
a
a headbutt is, depending on if you're a high wing or low wing aircraft, one thing that's for certain is we will own deconfliction from you. The last thing we want to do is, as an F-16 coming across your nose, putting you in our wake turbulence, especially if you're a lighter aircraft, we don't want to do that. We want to keep it as safe as possible. We just want to get you going into a different direction. The biggest thing I do is make sure you have communications with somebody at that point. If we were headbutting you, that means turn immediately and follow us into the direction that we're going. At that point, check your connections. A lot of times it's just a simple radio connection, or maybe you're on the wrong frequency. Probably you haven't heard anybody talking to you for the last 5 minutes.
That's a clue.
Absolutely. Silence is not always golden, is it?
No.
So, yeah, that's just, let's get going in a different direction as quick as possible. But like I said, we will provide ourselves in a position that's going to be deconflicted from your aircraft. Depending if you're high wing, low wing, we might be above you or below you.
Okay, and more on the deconfliction. If we were to see an aircraft approaching like this, and with a wing rock, what does that signify?
That's I'm getting your attention,
Follow
and I
me.
would like you to follow me right now.
Yeah. Okay, and the worst case scenario, if you do not get the follow me carry through, and you'd have to take it to the next deconfliction level, what are we talking about?
The next deconfliction level will be a headbutt to
Okay.
try to get you going, making sure that you definitely have seen us. And like I said, 9 out of 10 times, it's a radio issue. Now we can start communicating on guard frequency and go from there.
Good. And again, this is I'm sure it's the exception, not the rule. Typically on a TFR, hopefully you guys are just loitering at a comfortable altitude.
You bet. You should. We're up there 90% of the time, and you will never even know we're there.
And I tell you what, Cheetah, the opportunities that you have had in aviation and aerospace, did they just fall out in your lap, or did you have to pursue it? Because I'm trying to pull out with our viewing audience here. If I wanted to be a NORAD pilot and I'm 9 years old, what courses would I take in life? I mean, right down to the yes ma'am, yes sir, the oratory skills, the personality. Because you being a PA, you know that you get a lot more by being polite. A lot more doors seem to open if you have a good, strong foundation. Share with us.
I would say resilience first and foremost, and then equally, if not more important than that, is attitude. Okay. The best quote I ever heard was a lady came up and she said, "What's the easiest way?" This was to my squadron commander. She said, "What's the easiest way for my son? He's in high school to become a fighter pilot." And he looked at her and he said, "There's a lot of ways to do it, but none of them are easy." That being said, roadblocks are going to pop up. Do you have to be a straight A student? I'm a perfect example that you do not have to be a straight A student.
Good for you.
I did not go to the Air Force Academy. It's great education, but I wanted to do something immediately after high school involved with the military, which the Air Force Academy would have been one of those avenues. I went into the Air National Guard. A lot of people don't even know about the Air National Guard. Most states have them. Most of them have some sort of flying mission. My wife, she did ROTC, so that's another opportunity to go to a traditional college and be part of the military development program. There's CAP, civil aviation, that a lot of individuals start out with, but you don't have to do all those things. I've had buddies that were school teachers, had A-10 pilots come and talk to their classes, and follow-up conversations say, hey, I'm teaching in San Diego, getting a little bored, I'd like to fly aircraft. He's an A-10 pilot now just because of that inspiring event. So have a good attitude, be resilient, pursue whatever you want to do, and just get after it.
And anybody that tells you that you don't have a chance, that's a challenge.
I probably would stop hanging out with those people.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there are downers. You know, and
Yeah.
high school's way different. You know, I just graduated high school 5 years ago, so it's different than when I went through high school. I'm being sarcastic, right? So, you know, social media, all that stuff is the other thing that I can impress upon is, you know, the FAA is strict. It's not easy to be a pilot. You know, decisions that you make are now always documented, whether it's, you know, high school parties or get-togethers, all that stuff is out on social media, right? There are certain things that can happen that is going to end your not only military aviation career, but general aviation career. So it's just being cognizant of that. It's a different environment and making the correct decisions, right?
And Cheetah, the one thing that I try to pull out and through my FAA career was everybody was talking about the regulations. That's the rule. You got to stick to the regulations. You know, regulation this, regulation that. Guys, gals, you're missing the boat here. Those are a set of standards, and regulations a minimum standard. You set your own standards, but just follow the standard. What is the standard? Learn what the standard is.
Right.
In your situation, you deal with standards every time you get in that cockpit.
Exactly.
And when you're off standard, it's your role to get back on track.
Yeah, you look at, I would say probably over 90% of the accidents in aviation, and that goes for military aviation or general aviation, is usually some sort of situational awareness, some sort of pilot decision making. And you know, just like our previous conversation is, the decisions you make, are they in accordance with the rules, right? Or are you bending the rules? Are you taking off with improper weight and balance calculations? Are you doing appropriate weather checks? Are you checking the TFRs? All that stuff, when you peel back the onions from an accident, those are usually causal factors, right?
And peeling the onion, and another kind of a phrase is chain of events.
Yep.
The reason model, you know, the Swiss cheese.
That's right.
The likelihood of things lining up in the Swiss cheese, it's sometimes remote, but it can happen a lot easier, and very, very insidious is the way that these problems start to arise. And even yourself, and I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Okay.
Cheetah, is there a day that you were set to either go fly a mission or go flying, period, and things just weren't lining up? Either you didn't feel good, and we all get sick, we're human, and that you had to scrub or just delay or postpone, that you changed the course rather than, I have to go fly today?
I would say that's an extremely tough part in military aviation, in the fact that it's all on your shoulders. I mean, in a single seat jet, you're the one making the decision. Is your mind right? Who is that going to affect? It's not just me and my F-16. It's going to affect the mission. So when I was an aggressor pilot, we'd have red flag exercises. Red flag exercises meant if I was a MiG-1, I would take my forces up to 20 to 40 aircraft out to the west side of the airspace, and 100 miles out to the east side of the airspace is the blue forces, right? And they could have another 60 aircraft. Or now you have this massive war exercise where you have guys dropping live iron, you have guys shooting simulated missiles, you have airspace all over. But I need to trust that everybody's in their assigned altitude blocks. So if one guy in that entire formation or entire war exercise is not on his game, you got to use appropriate crew resource management. And how do you say crew resource management in single F-16s? It exists. Yeah. It really does. It exists with the bearing controllers, the AWACS controllers. That's all assets that you have to talk to one another to help you make that decision making. What's the first thing that goes? Communication, right? Communication starts falling out. So it's not only that person sitting in that F-16 that can start picking up on the signs that something's not going correctly, it's also the other crew members that are in different airframes, okay? So crew resource management not only applies to the airlines, general aviation, it applies to single-seat fighter aircraft. So that being said, is who makes the decision as to whether or not you should or should not fly. In a fighter aircraft, you solely make it, but from the CRM perspective, other guys can say, hey, this guy's, hey, you're having a tough day, why don't you go home? And that happens. It doesn't happen often, but as far as me making those decisions, I don't remember a time where just out of luck that I was too sick to fly in a certain mission, but there's been times where you have to identify, hey, am I feeling up for this flight? And I have fortunately been feeling up for the flights that I've flown on.
Good.
So.
Good. As far as return to base, it's not making the decision to not fly is just as important as the decision to fly. It's a decision.
Oh yeah. You know what? Going back, that decision matrix, weather.
Okay.
Weather is a perfect example.
Excellent.
Does the mission require you to fly through a certain level of weather? Even though you have live updates through your computer systems that are showing you what type of weather, have you done enough planning to make it to a divert base if you don't have the weather? So now fuel should not have to be a deciding factor on whether or not you're going to fly through that weather. So this all goes back to proper mission planning. When I was on the Thunderbird team, my job was to be the logistics guy, take off in my own F-16D model with my mechanic in the back seat, coordinate to meet up with tankers at different locations throughout the country so that when I took off from Nellis, I would not have to land in Colorado Springs or in Ohio. I could continue to refuel in the air while I was getting out to an air show in Maine or on the East Coast. Incredible amount of planning, incredible amount of CRM, but that also helped me with the decision matrix of flying through weather because I had an endless gas tank relatively that could continue to fuel me through and around weather. Not everybody has that luxury.
Good. And the relief tube comes in handy too.
Yeah. Well, we have piddle packs, right? I wish, Milk Jug, I wish you would have had a piddle pack and then you'd had a different call sign.
Oh, Lord, me too. A question for you, and this I'm going to try to blend in a little bit of my own experience. I like to talk to myself. And being a CRM, a crew of one, when you're out, I like to talk to myself. And I'm coming in approach. VREF, ref +1, ref -5. We're in gusty conditions. Do you guys do that either mentally or how do you keep track of, oh, Cheetah, not looking good here, buddy, get out of here?
I actually talk out loud.
Good.
So
Good.
in the single seat aircraft, it never bothered anybody until I started flying with my crew chief in the back seat, and he had to listen to everything I said. So I guess there's different ways that people do it, but I'm a verbal communicator.
Good. And you can communicate with yourself. And it's not really a sign of insanity.
Yeah, if you heard some of our tapes, we talk really hard to ourselves oftentimes. We don't really give ourselves many pats on the back. Like, you did a great job there, Cheetah. Nice job.
Nice landing. Oh,
that's
boy,
right. Oh,
tell you.
Mr. Air Boss, can you confirm I'm landed yet? It was so smooth, right?
Yeah, are my wheels touching? Okay. Oh, gosh. Cheetah, is there anything else that you'd like to develop? And again, this is the entire reason that we're here is for safety.
Absolutely.
And safety without that subliminal foundation with the NORAD operations and emissions. Really, if you're not out there doing things safely, you really don't have a good mission.
No, the days of hot dog and everything that we do is recorded in some sort, whether it's air traffic controller having some sort of ping on their screen. They're going to have some situational awareness on what you are doing. We see lack of airmanship all the time, right? By some silly accidents that happen. So the biggest thing is be professional. Do the appropriate planning, which also falls under being professional. And then also, if you contingency plan, you are setting yourself up for success, right? You're already, the aviation is adaptability, right? So when decision making, are you making a decision? It depends on how fast your aircraft is going, but in faster aircraft, sometimes a bad decision is no decision is better than no decision at all. Yeah. You figure out, hey, that wasn't the correct thing that I should have done. You make another decision, and you keep that matrix going until you get out of a sticky situation.
And I know, Cheetah, that system safety is somewhat a new term in general aviation, newer term, but system safety, really the safety culture, and as good as you guys are, and gals, I meant to bring that up, guys and gals, we say him, but we mean they.
That's right.
Because there's a lot of fine lady airmen out there.
Yeah. Yes.
And I mean, really, we'll just leave it at that. That's a whole different segment, getting the ladies involved. But when we say him, we mean him and her. Every night we are human. Humans make mistakes, we err. And a good safety culture is being able to admit that, hey, I made a mistake.
That's
so
right.
maybe the system is something we can put into the system to help prevent that mistake from happening again.
That's right. Are you debriefing yourself? You know, debriefs are where 90% of our learning comes. You know, we educate ourselves, we brief, we mission plan, we go out, we fly the mission. Sometimes the mission might be from point A to point B, that's it. Now you need a debrief. Did that mission go, did that cross country go as perfect as it could have? Were there pop-up items that you could have learned from? So don't just debrief with other crew members, debrief yourself. Make sure that makes a professional pilot.
I'm so glad you brought up the term perfect, because you always strive for perfection on your missions.
That's right.
You set the level and you strive to achieve that level. And in so many cases we find, there's an old term, it's close enough for government work. That's mediocrity. And mediocrity in your line of work can spell disaster.
Right.
And if it's mediocre, it's not good enough. Let's go for the line. Let's set the bar high and go for it.
You know, as pilots, we owe that to our mechanics also. I assume my mechanic is perfect, right? He's doing things to speculations. He or she are doing things to speculation. So I owe that to them. If I'm flying their aircraft, I owe perfection to them. Perfect planning, striving for perfect planning, and then getting the debrief so that I can have a perfect flight. To me is not that everything goes right in the air, it's that learning points were drawn out of it.
Well, and again, we learn every day, and as good as you guys are, and I've got to hand it to you. I will shake your hand.
Thank you.
I got to hand it to you. You guys are, it's reassuring to know that you are up at loitering. And,
well, thank you. I appreciate that.
When we're out just trying to buzz around, and used to do a lot of flying with the CAP.
Yep.
And says, guys, you know, it's good to know that up around 15 to 20,000 feet that we got a jet.
Yep. You
really?
Bet. Check the TFRs, NOTAMs, and that'll keep you from getting that government air show with an F-16 rolling up on your
I don't
wings.
like close air shows like
nope,
that.
You shouldn't.
Cheetah, thank you so much for joining
Thanks,
us
Mr.
here.
Coleman, I appreciate it.
And and that's Ben. Please,
okay,
thank you.
all right.
There
Thanks,
we go.
Ben.
Or
right.
milk jug, if you know
Milk
me
jug.
well enough. Okay, guys, there we go. We're so good to hear from NORAD, and hopefully you will learn a little bit more about this on either the website, and you'll go by their area here at Sun and Fun, find them, and get one of these pamphlets and put it on the refrigerator. Memorize it, front and back. I'm Ben Coleman, one of your hosts, and we'll see you next interview, but it's going to be with John McLeroy, Mr. John McLeroy. Take care.